Welcome to the Dawgs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast presented by Manly Bands. Josh All, your host again today. Another quick microcast. This one will be even shorter than yesterday's. But the Browns made more moves as anticipated, like I mentioned yesterday morning. They were expected to do. Obviously, they had that number 2 overall waiver claim in the NFL. You knew they were going to use it. But how they used it is, wow, that's what was interesting. So I'm going to dive into the players that they added, the players they waived, how this final roster and practice squad is shaping up heading into Bengals week, because next Sunday we kick off the Browns 2025 season. It feels like we've been talking about it forever now, and it's finally here. So get excited. Like if you're going to be excited for the Browns at any point in the season, the time is now. So before we start looking at all these players, remind you, like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell. If you're listening on audio, please drop us a 5-star written review. Those things really help out the show. And head to jointhedogs.com to become an official Dog Pack member. Get on the Patreon page, sync up with the private Discord, get ready for the Browns season with us, with the Dog Pack, and let's have some fun. Jointhedogs.com. Now, before I dive into these players, I will preface everything by saying I understand that these are players who were waived by other teams. They're players that were cut, not wanted. They're players that the Browns are adding to their practice squad, and they haven't exactly had the career or the start to their career, whatever it may be, that these players would have hoped for. I get all that. But there are certain players the Browns grabbed here yesterday that I'm very excited about. I'm excited about their potential. I'm excited about what they could be if they live up to their pre-draft, scouting reports, to the potential that they were thought to have when they were coming out of college. So I'm going to go through this, and if you jump in halfway through, you're going to say, wow, this guy's like way too excited about, a UDFA that somebody else cut. No. Just, I understand all that. And I'm not saying by any stretch are any of these players ever going to take a snap in a regular season game for the Browns. They very well could not. I get that. But they very well could. And I want to talk about them, especially I think there's like 3 or 4 guys that I really want to hit on that I was really excited the Browns grabbed yesterday. So we'll just kick it off with the first one. We talked about it yesterday. I said, I went through the 53-man roster. Only 2 running backs on the roster. It was Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson. And I said, because Kevin said, we're not just going to have 2 running backs on the roster heading in the season. You knew they were going to do something. You knew they were going to add somebody. And the most likely scenario was adding somebody on waivers, somebody another team cut. And the big one everybody expected to see for the Browns was Audric Estime, cut by the Broncos. He's a bigger bruiser type of running back. Everybody on the team, you got like Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson right now, and these other guys that are the smaller type backs. They're the 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", like right around 200, maybe even sub 200 type of back. And you need a bigger bruiser guy to handle a bulkier workload. And that was why Audric Estime's name kept getting thrown around. The Browns did go that route. They did go the bigger bruiser running back, but it was not Audric Estime they claimed off waivers. It was Raheim Rocket Sanders, UDFA out of Arkansas, who signed on after the draft with the Los Angeles Chargers, went through training camp, played the preseason with the Chargers, was part of their waiver releases to get down to 53 on their squad. And the Browns had that high priority waiver claim, and they got Raheim Sanders. So they got him, and they got cornerback Jarek Bernard-Converse off of the New York Jets. And those were the 2 players that they were awarded off of waivers. So Jarek Bernard-Converse, or Converse, however you say his last name, this is a guy who was drafted in the 6th round, 2023, by the New York Jets. Played college football at LSU, 6'1", 205, so he's a bigger cornerback. Started off his rookie season on the PUP in New York, and has primarily been used as a special teams ace, or however you want to say it, for the New York Jets. He's played 212 career snaps over the last 2 seasons on special teams with the Jets, only 10 snaps on defense. so far in his NFL career. But the big thing with Bernard Converse is his coming out of college, his RAS score was a 977. So we're talking elite level athlete coming out of college. And, to get this guy added to your practice squad and in the building, I feel like, is he going to play defense for the Browns? Maybe not ever. But he's a good bet. Whenever you're making these moves, you want to bet on talent. You want to bet on athletic abilities, and this guy definitely has it. Raheim Sanders, though, the running back out of Arkansas, this is the guy that I want to spend a little time talking about. So Raheim Sanders, I said they got the bigger bruising back that they wanted. It just wasn't Audric Estime. So Raheim Sanders, 6 foot, about 220. This was before the draft, 217. He might be like 225, somewhere in that range. He's a bigger guy. The thing with Raheim Sanders that, I liked, and if you guys watched any of the mock draft episodes heading into the season, on one or two of those shows, I actually mocked Raheim Sanders as, I forget, like a 6th or 7th round pick to the Browns, adding to that running back room. And it's because of the skill set he has. He's the bigger back, like I keep saying, but he's not strictly limited to first and second down, early down thumper type of role, which Audric Estime would have been. This guy's got 4.46 speed. A guy like Audric Estime is at 4.71. I said before, whenever all the things came out that the Browns, were kind of linked to Audric Estime and people were proposing that they pick him up. I'm just not a huge Audric Estime fan. He's a fine back. He's okay for what he does and what he can do, but he's not very efficient. We've already got inefficient running back in Jerome Ford, and I don't need another one, especially a slow one, and a guy that is very limited in what his role can be, whereas Raheim Sanders, not only has he shown through college that he can shoulder a heavy workload on the ground in terms of carry volume, but he can also handle reception work. He is a passing down back as well. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he's got a 3-down skill set. Now, again, not saying he's ever going to be that for the Browns, but I'm saying that is who they went and got, a guy with that type of skill set. And I apologize. I know I keep saying Raheim Sanders out of Arkansas. He spent his first 3 seasons in college at Arkansas. Then he transferred last year. He came out of college into the NFL from South Carolina. So just a little correction on my part there. But at Arkansas, and in 2021, when he was a freshman, he made the SEC All-Freshman team. He played in all 13 games. He had, 114 carries for 578 yards, 5 touchdowns, caught 11 passes for 109 yards, and a touchdown as a freshman. So then 2022, his second year at Arkansas, he was second team All-SEC. He led the team with 1,443 rushing yards on 222 carries, 6.5 yards per carry, 10 touchdowns on the ground. He also caught 28 passes for 271 more yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. So his second season at Arkansas just absolutely burst onto the scene in a big way. 2023, again at Arkansas, he missed half of that season with a knee injury, and then he had a shoulder injury that required surgery, but he was named a team captain heading into that season, and in his, 5 starts, he totaled 62 carries for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. So again, his third season, limited by injuries. He then transferred, obviously, over to South Carolina. And what he did at South Carolina last season, made second team All-SEC, led the team with 881 yards on 183 carries, 4.8 yards per attempt, 11 rushing touchdowns, and in those games, he also caught 27 passes, 316 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns through the air. So this guy, while his college production is not up there with the upper echelon guys, this running back draft here in 2025 was deep. It was the deepest running back class that I have ever seen. And you ask any draft analyst and they'll tell you the same thing. You could find serious value at this position all throughout the draft. I mean, the Browns got Dylan Sampson, the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, in the 4th round, for crying out loud. Any other year, Dylan Sampson might be a 2nd-round pick in the running back class. So Raheim Sanders, while he did go undrafted, has serious talent that if he reaches that potential, if that talent can be put into effect on the field. The only thing with him that I've seen from people is that he plays a little smaller than what he actually is. You kind of hear those phrases thrown around about running backs. A guy might play bigger than he is, bigger than his size. You got like 92-pound running back that plays like he weighs 210. And then you got a guy like Raheim Sanders who's 220, and he tries to be a little too shifty, jukey, dancy for his size, where there's just opportunities on the field where he would just lower his shoulder and, initiate some physical contact with a defender. He could pick up an extra, few yards on the tackle. And instead he tries to, shake and bake and that kind of stuff with these defenders. That's one of the things that I've seen. But man, I'm telling you, overall, this guy's got some potential. I don't know how else to say it. I am excited about him. Will he ever make it onto the field and be an important, have an important role for the Browns? I don't know. A lot of this depends on Quinshon Judkins, because if Judkins doesn't sign before week 1, Raheim Sanders will be, unless they add somebody else, he'll be on the active roster, and he'll be in some sort of rotation, probably with Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson as that bigger, bruising type of running back between the tackles. So I'm excited for Raheim Sanders. That'll be a fun one to watch. This episode is sponsored by Manly Bands. Browns fans, it is time to upgrade your ring game. Head over to manlybands.com/dogs and check out everything Manly Bands has to offer. Some of the coolest bands materials that you're going to find. I love going through and looking at everything in their Jack Daniel's whiskey barrel collection. I mean, you can get a wedding ring made from a Jack Daniel's whiskey barrel. That's awesome. They've got the Lord of the Rings collection. They've got DC Comics, and they've also got the other materials too. Gold, white gold, that kind of stuff. They've got meteorite. They've got dinosaur bone. They've got all kinds of stuff. And they have a ton of other gifts as well. They've got barware. They've got chains. They've got wristwatch. They've got all kinds of stuff. Anything you need if you're looking for manly rings and manly things, head to manlybands.com/dogs and make sure to use promo code CAMP25, CAMP25, to get an extra $25 off your order. That's manlybands.com/dogs, promo code CAMP25. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Browns fans, if you're like me, the stresses in life only increase the older you get. Your family, your job, your bank account, just a few things that drive the cycle of stress every day. And if you have people constantly depending on you, it can put a heavy weight on your mental health. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? Why does no one appreciate everything I'm trying to do for them? If these thoughts have ever darkened your day, 1, you're not alone, and 2, I highly recommend talking to someone, and that's where BetterHelp could be the right resource for you. Head to BetterHelp, HELP.com/dogs, DAWGS, for 10% off your first month of talk therapy. Just fill out a simple questionnaire and BetterHelp will match you with the best therapist for your needs. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch therapists at any time for no extra cost. BetterHelp is 100% online. You can talk with your therapist on the phone, via face chat, or even through text message. Your therapist will listen, ask questions, and help you see things from new perspectives. So what are you waiting for? Take the first step to making positive improvements in your life. Head to BetterHelp.com/dogs now for 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/dogs for 10% off your first month. The next skill player that I really want to highlight here that the Browns added yesterday was Malachi Corley, the wide receiver that the Jets drafted last year with the first pick in the 3rd round. So he was a high 3rd round pick. Can't get any higher than the first pick in the round. And out of Western Kentucky last season, I don't know if you guys remember Malachi Corley's name. I'm sure you do, especially if you watch this show. Again, mocked him to the Browns a few times ahead of last year's draft. Probably in like that 3rd, 4th round range. There were reports that this guy could go anywhere from the 2nd to the 4th round. His skill set was so enticing, but it's also limited to the point that you didn't really know where he was exactly going to end up in the draft. He was not a refined route runner coming out of college, not your prototypical wide receiver. He was more of a gadget type of guy, and his pro comp from a lot of people, NFL.com scouting, everything like that, was Deebo Samuel in terms of what his skill set and his abilities were. The dude was a yards after catch machine in college. That was his calling card. That's what he did. You get the ball into his hands around the line of scrimmage and just let him create. Most of his yards, and he had a ton of them, came after the catch. As a freshman, he didn't do a whole lot, just played 9 games in a reserve role, but then his second year in college, he played in all 14 of Western Kentucky's games, caught 73 passes for 691 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then the next year in 2022, he was first team All-Conference USA. He ranked 4th in the entire nation with 101 receptions, 1,293 yards, and he tied for 7th in the country with 11 receiving touchdowns. So the guy just popped off that third year in 2022, and then in 2023, he was first team All-Conference USA, 79 catches, 894 yards, and then he also had 11 touchdowns again. He set the school record with 259 career receptions. So again, this is what's his size here? 5'11", 215 pounds. He is a bigger physical type of receiver, and that was, again, his calling card was the yards after catch, get the ball into his hands as quickly as possible in the offense, and then just let him do his thing, which this kind of goes to the running back position as well, because what did the 49ers start using Deebo Samuel as? A weapon out of the backfield. Hand him the ball, get him on jet sweeps, do that kind of thing. I wonder if the Browns will try to utilize Malachi Corley in that sort of role as well. Use him out of the backfield, let him get some carries as a running back. He could be a Cordero Patterson type of guy, a Deebo Samuel, the way he's being. I'm not saying he is Deebo Samuel. Nobody's saying that. But whenever I'm talking about what he's capable of doing on the field and the way he's utilized, that's the best player to point to as an example. But pretty excited about this one. I think the Browns got guys who have not lived up to, their potential so far in the NFL, whether it's, Raheim Sanders as a UDFA just going through his first training camp, or it's Malachi Corley coming out of his rookie season where he only caught, I think, 3 passes for 16 yards last year. He had his biggest low light, I guess we'll call it, was he was about to score his first ever NFL touchdown. He dropped the ball just in front of the goal line, ended up not being touchdown, obviously. And he's not the only player to ever do that. I mean, it's a total bonehead move. I don't understand how these guys do that. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, for crying out loud, did it either last year or the year before. Like, it happens to the best of the best, but rookie mistake, and we'll see if he can't kind of get something going with the change of scenery coming now to Cleveland. So the Browns added another former first-round pick to their practice squad. Andrew Berry just seems to have a propensity to go out and get these former first-round type of guys who, hey, maybe they just need a change of scenery, but he went and got offensive guard Cole Strange, who was waived by the New England Patriots. Cole Strange was the 29th overall pick in the draft back in 2022 by the Patriots. Now, what's interesting about Cole Strange is, some pre-draft analysts had him as like a second-round pick, maybe like a high to mid-second. Some even said maybe even a third-round pick. But the Patriots took him at the tail end of the first round. And then he came in and he started every game at left guard as a rookie for the Patriots. And then in 2023, his second season, he started the first 10 games that season. And then in week 15 against the Chiefs, he suffered a torn patellar tendon in his left knee, ended his season, went on IR. And then, he started out on PUP the following year in 2024, still recovering from that knee injury, didn't get activated for, any action in the games until December 10th toward the end of the season. Played in 3 games, made 2 starts that year, and things were just kind of not the same as they were before the injury. So then here just earlier this week, he was released by the Patriots and now picked up by the Browns. And this is why I'm encouraged by Cole Strange. So that injury that we talked about there, that was at the tail end of the 2023 season. And we know these knee injuries for these guys, it takes a year and a half to 2 years post-surgery, post the injury occurring to really get back to full strength, to get back to form. Well, here we are coming into 2025, and Cole Strange should be coming pretty well off of that injury now and should be pretty much fully recovered. I'm excited about it because, again, this is a guy who was drafted in the first round, started every single game at left guard as a rookie. So he's got the experience now. He obviously had enough talent to be named a starter as a rookie in the NFL. And I think that adding him to the practice squad, they'll probably get him onto the active roster at some point. He provides a good dart throw, a good lottery ticket for the Browns that, hey, next year we could be without both Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio, probably most likely Joel Bitonio at the least will probably retire after this year. Wyatt Teller's contract makes him a very enticing, movable piece after this season. We could be looking at 2 new guards next year. Could Cole Strange be one of those guys? Zach Zinter hasn't exactly shown what we've wanted to see from him so far. He still has time to grow and develop, obviously. I'm not closing the book on Zach Zinter. And then, you got guys like Tevin Jenkins on the team right now who the Browns could look to extend and make a starter next year. But Cole Strange is a guy that I want to keep my eye on. I want you guys to understand or, recognize the name and just pay attention to if anything were to develop with him during the season. Okay, so the last guy here that I really wanted to highlight that the Browns added, there were some others. We'll just run through the list of all the moves and everything, but they claimed Edifwan Ulofosio. This is a name that I really got to work on now. So Edifwan Ulofosio, linebacker, former 5th round pick from the Buffalo Bills. So they cut him earlier this week. He was their 5th round pick last year in 2024. And if you watch the mock draft episodes last year, Ulofosio was a guy that I mocked to the Browns later in the draft a couple times as a linebacker prospect that I really liked coming out of Washington. And one thing that I really want to note about Ulofosio here is he started his college career as a walk-on at Washington. So who does that sound like? Starting your career as a walk-on and ending as an All-American. Yeah, that's right. Carson Swessinger, who the Browns took in the 2nd round this year, started his career at UCLA as a walk-on, worked his way all the way up to team captain, All-American, and league leader, nation leader in tackles, all that kind of stuff. Ulofosio, not that far off from these things. So just listen to some of this stuff. So again, 2018, he was redshirted as a walk-on. 2019, he was the team's 12th man of the year. 2020, this guy was in college for 6 years, so bear with me here. 2020, he tied the FBS with 7.8 solo tackles per game. Sounds like Swessinger there. Ranked 3rd with 11.8 total tackles per game. Started 4 games, 1 sack, 4 pass breakups in that season. So then 2021, he started in the first 6 games, but then he missed the rest of the season with an arm injury. In 2022, he played in 5 games, but he suffered a knee injury during the offseason, and then he was kind of limited throughout the season there for Washington, didn't play a ton. So you kind of have this guy who walks on, he pops, he flashes like, oh, hey, this guy could be a legitimate asset in our defense, and then he gets injured, struggles with injuries for 2 seasons, and it almost gets written off. And then 2023, he bounces back in a big way, becomes 3rd team All-American, 1st team All-Pac-12. He's a finalist for the Butkus Award, which is the nation's best linebacker. Started in all 15 games for Washington, 94 tackles, 8 tackle for loss, 3 sacks, an interception, a forced fumble, and 3 pass breakups, and he was also named a team captain. So while his college career was much longer than a guy like Carson Swessinger, it is very similar in the fact that started as a walk-on, ended as an All-American. Now, Swessinger was a 1st team All-American. Ulofosio was a 3rd team All-American, but still, lots of tackles for loss. The guy flies all over the field. I was very intrigued with him as a prospect. Now, again, is this a guy that might just spend all his time on the practice squad and never crack the active roster? Yes, could very possibly be the case. He didn't play until week 18 for the Bills last year. I think he played 64 snaps in week 18 against the Patriots in kind of that throwaway game as they were getting ready for the playoffs. He had 5 tackles, a tackle for loss, a pass breakup. Nothing crazy, but also, still pretty good for your first ever start and game time as a rookie. But they end up cutting him as part of their roster moves. We pick him up. So again, just excited about the potential that could be there for a guy like Edifwan, Ulo Foshio. We'll get it. We'll get these names down, guys. We'll work together on it. To recap, awarded off waivers, running back Raheim Sanders, cornerback Jarek Bernard-Converse, the guys that the Browns then waived to make room for those new additions, cornerback Dom Jones, tight end Brendan Bates. Both of those players are expected to be back on the practice squad after everything clears today on Thursday, so be looking for that. And then signed to the practice squad, quarterback. That's right, we had to get ourselves that fourth quarterback, and it is Mr. Bailey Zappi, the guy who came in last year and started Week 18 against the Ravens in that 35-10 beat down as he threw, I'm trying to remember the stats off the top of my head, it was like 16 of 31. It was like 51% completion. He had a touchdown. He had those 2 interceptions. I think one was a pick six. Just a bug game. Not great at all, but he's back on the practice squad. Running back Amani Marshall, running back Travion Williams, wide receiver Caden Davis, wide receiver Malachi Corley, tight end Sal Cannella, offensive lineman guard Cole Strange, defensive end Julian Okwara, defensive tackle Sam Kamara, defensive tackle Ralph Hawley, who was on our show and is such a darn good dude. I really love Ralph Hawley. Go back and check out that interview if you guys want to hear from Ralph Hawley. Cornerback Lamarian James and safety Christopher Edmonds. And that's how things currently stand for the Browns. Oh, I'm sorry. Also on the practice squad, linebacker Edifwan Ulafoshui. That's how things currently stand for the Browns in terms of who they got off of waivers, players that they signed to their practice squad, players that they signed that were cut by other teams. A few guys to be really excited about, at least for me, guys that I liked coming out of college. And again, I will end by saying, no, I'm not expecting any of these guys to come in and play a prominent role for the Browns, but there is the potential that they could. Guys like Sanders, guys like Strange, guys like Corley, guys like Ulafoshui. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And even like Jarek Bernard-Converse. I mean, we might be looking for that, depth cornerback piece who can specialize on special teams. Guy like, Troy Brown and Mike Ford the last couple of years, that was kind of their role on the team. Maybe Bernard-Converse, that would be his role this year. We'll see how things shake out. But let me know what you guys think about the moves the Browns made. Anything that you wish they would have done, anything you wish they wouldn't have done, what surprised you? Do you like Sanders over a guy like Estime? Let's hear it. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you guys tuning into the episode, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.
This episode is sponsored by Butcher Box for Pets. Browns fans, we love our fellow dogs, our Dog Pack members, and the Dog Pound faithful, but let's not kid ourselves. The most important dogs in our lives are, well, our dogs. Your furry friends aren't just pets, they're part of the family. But the question is, what are you actually feeding them? Head to butcherbox4pets.com/products to see all the options for your dogs, including fresh and dry foods, treats, meal toppers, and even toys for your dog. If you're not sure what your dog will like best, try the Premium Nutrition Adult Starter Pack, and they even have a vacation bundle to take care of your four-legged friends while you're on vacation this summer. And right now you can get 20% off your order with promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out. At ButcherBox, they believe in real ingredients. Their pet foods have been developed and certified by vet nutritionists to contain zero artificial flavors or preservatives. You get protein-packed formula with over 50% of the recipe comprised of third-party certified humane ButcherBox meat, plus functional ingredients like pre- and postbiotics to support your dog's vitality and digestion. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line is your dogs are getting the nutrition and the value they need, and honestly, that they deserve. I know our home wouldn't be the same without Odie, our 100-pound golden retriever who thinks he's a 10-pound lap dog. He is not, but it gives us peace of mind knowing that we're giving him quality food instead of just that factory processed garbage from the store. And speaking of the store, no need to go. ButcherBox for Pets delivers their high-quality food right to your door. So head to butcherboxforpets.com/products and use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 20% off your order. It's time for us dogs to give our dogs the nutrition they deserve.